Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Amir, for inviting. Yeah, my microphone is on. Can you hear me? I think Trini can hear me. All right. Yeah, so I'm Supriya Kulkarni. Thank you, Amir, first of all, for inviting me to this event and to speak on this topic. Uh, yeah, sorry, is there an audio issue now, or can you hear me? Okay, okay. Yeah, so I'm speaking to you right now from Indonesia. I'm based here. I am an ethics consultant. I design learning programs, modules, and also speak about ethical technology at many forums. I do ethical AI mentorship, and I'm also part of a policy group as a research group member, which has interest in the development of AI being regulated properly. Recently, I've just contributed to a report on the future of information, knowledge, and education, and I have created an AI literacy toolkit for educators. So, this talk actually comes at the right time. So, my perspective on this topic, I think in November 2022, when ChatGPT was launched, everybody started talking about AI. And to be fair, this was one of the first consumer facing AI tools that was extremely easy to use. I mean, the reason it was so disruptive was, one did not need to be a coder or to have technical expertise to use ChatGPT. And now I think using AI tools has become the norm and it's going to be the reality of the future. And we cannot refuse technology. We cannot say, I'm not going to use it. But what we need to do, and all stakeholders need to do, is to understand the capabilities of AI, to understand the limitations of AI tools and systems, and to understand, most importantly, the risks and the impacts that they can have on individuals and society, and use the tools very responsibly. So, whether it is as students, as educators, as future employees, employers, entrepreneurs, I mean, whoever you may be and whatever role you may play, you have to understand responsible usage. So, hopefully, by the end of today's session, we will be able to, come back with some actionable insights on how to use AI in a creative way as well as in a responsible way. Thank you. And I hand over to Trini. The microphone, Trinidad, is on the top panel, right-hand corner. All right. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Oh, Trinidad is back. Do we want to hear her? No, I don't think I can hear Trinidad even now. Sorry. Okay, so I will go. Yeah, I will. I will. Can you see now? And and you can hear me also, right? Okay. So today I'm going to just give me 1 second, all right? Okay. So you can see me as well as the screen. I'm not able to I'm not able to do a full screen here. Okay. All right. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the use of AI in content creation, the different ways that it is used in different industries, some of the benefits and opportunities. But especially as an ethicist, what I'm going to talk more about is the risks, challenges, and ethical concerns, and what that means for us as students, as industry folk, or as educators. So we'll also be taking a brief look at AI in education and how tools are sort of being used, but that will be a very short section. I also want to talk about if there are these risks and challenges, what are the different implications for the stakeholders, who might be the relevant stakeholders, and what could be the action points for them. So first of all, what is AI driven content? We all know that generative tools, generative AI is everywhere. And whether it is creation of text content, whether it's, interactive images, audio, video files, or even generating code, AI can now do everything. And in fact, AI tools which can do everything, which are multimodal, are being used to a great extent now. Yeah. So there are different industries and different types of applications where generative AI is used, or not even generative AI. I mean, there are different types of AI systems that might be used in different industries. So, ChatGPT and similar generative tools might help to create new stuff in the areas of marketing, advertising, media. For instance, things like creating personalized email campaigns, or doing product recommendations in e-commerce, for putting analysis of customers' reviews, in entertainment industries for actually writing scripts, for creating backgrounds, music scores, soundtracks, in the area of communication to actually create campaigns, visual ideas, in gaming to create interactive videos, journalism, of course, to do research and to write articles. And most importantly, we'll talk about what AI is doing for the field of education, which is our focus here today. So, what is AI actually doing in education, and how AI actually gets used in this field will not just impact how students learn AI tools, but also about their approach and mindset when they actually get out into industry and start using the tools themselves. Yeah. So there are a vast number of tools which are being used by educators, by students, and these have multiple benefits. Of course, the usage varies across towns, cities, countries, regions, the nature of education institutes that we are talking about, and this is and also the background of learners. And this is primarily because the reality is that even today, not everyone has equal access, either to the internet or to devices. Yeah. So that's like the ground reality. So all this everything that we hear of is probably limited to a few number of people who can access everything. So there are definitely potential benefits to use of AI tools and many opportunities in this area. So for students, for instance, there's learning at an individual pace, having personalized AI tutors who can teach them things at their own pace, in their own fashion, very intuitively, like a personalized tutor might do. For educators, of course, AI tools help simplify administrative tasks, multiple tasks, so that they can, in fact, focus more on the teaching aspects, spend more quality time understanding what their students or learners require. Then there are things like biometrics which are being used, which automate a lot of services like payments, library access, and so on and so forth. There are newer multimodal tools which are coming up, which help learners with learning challenges like dyslexia, ADHD, disabilities, and these tools actually incorporate even tactile modes, so that they are truly multimodal. Then locally developed tools, for instance, can help down break language and context barriers. Right now, we do have translation tools, but sometimes the context is a little off, and for people who really don't understand the language, this can become embarrassing. It can become confusing. But lot of locally developed models are coming up in different regions in the world. And my particular favorite, which is creating dynamic curriculum for a specific role or position. I mean, we've all been in the position where we have to go through a lot of learning in order to achieve one particular focused topic or subject. So, if AI tools can actually create dynamic curriculums for one particular role that I might be interested in, that would be an amazing thing. However, while there are many advantages and benefits to using AI technologies, in developing different kinds of content. I mean, we're not just talking about creative content, but even internal content for learners. There are definitely current as well as potential challenges, risks, and many ethical concerns. So some of these concerns or some of these issues are systemic, which are an intrinsic part of how this technology might be created, or how these models, systems, or tools might be created. Some of these concerns are endemic, which are ongoing, which are pervasive, which are an intrinsic part of deployment, while other concerns are very new and emerging. It's the development related concerns that are arising. So let's take a look at a few examples to see what could go wrong with AI tools and what sort of we can learn from these examples. So the first is a popular translation tool that we all use at one point or the other, and especially used by students or learners who are not great at English. So when we input certain queries or sentences in gender neutral languages, the output often shows biased attitudes towards roles which are performed by women versus men. Now, this is an example of a Hungarian language which is gender neutral. And you can see that if it's a female, it's a nurse, a male is a scientist, etc., etc. So, what this means is this particular model is reinforcing gender stereotypes. And this is actually a reflection of the state of our societal attitudes, which have got articulated through AI artifacts. The next is an example of a book application that sort of used an AI tool to create summaries. So you may have seen Spotify summaries at the end of the year. And this app called Fable also created AI powered end of year summaries for their readers. Now, what the AI tool did was it was meant to be fun and playful, but some of the recaps actually took a very offensive, biased, and racist turn. And they actually, I mean, you can read over here. So they actually had inappropriate comments, not just on race, on the race of the author, but also on disability, sexual orientation, and more. So in these kind of instances, when you're relying on an AI tool to create something that you really don't have to, keep an eye on, sort of you're expecting it to do the job properly, it can offend your target consumers, and it can really create controversial content. The next example is of a professor who used ChatGPT. We all know that these models, especially ChatGPT, makes mistakes. It creates errors, gives wrong information, and this actually happened to this college professor who was doing research. So the AI model actually understood what good research looks like, but it created what a good reference looks like, but it created, or it gave references for something that was not there. This is also something that had happened with a courtroom case, if I understand rightly. And the generative AI model made up a lot of cases that had never happened. So there are always, fears of using these tools without really cross checking or cross referencing. um, Privacy and data concerns are a big issue. Uh, a school in LA actually designed a chatbot to provide, academic support and guidance to students. Unfortunately, the company who designed this chatbot got into some problem and they shut down. So this led to a lot of ethical problems, operational failures. The biggest ethical problem here was the data privacy concerns. The company had actually collected a huge amount of student data, even unnecessary data, to provide this personal guidance. But they did not have robust practices for data protection. And when this company collapsed, there was a huge risk of all the data actually leaking out, data breaches. So this example is something that happens very frequently in the real world. um, Fake, harmful content. So whenever there is new technology, there are always bad actors who want to abuse the technology, who want to make bad use of the technology. And this is an example of one such case. So this is something that was actually done, voice cloning, that was actually done by a school teacher, of the principal of the school. And um, I mean, he was finally tried and taken to court, I believe. But generative AI has a lot of opportunities for people who want to use this technology in a bad way. Generative AI gives them a lot of scope to do it. So deepfakes is something that we've all heard of. Misinformation, defamation, disinformation, and they can cause a lot of harm to individuals as well as society. The next one is not so serious, but yeah, definitely serious for individuals. I mean, there's a lot of AI dependence, sort of a kind of laziness, creative laziness. A lot of people are now depending on generative AI tools. I come from the creative industry, and I have seen creative folk. Whenever they're given a brief to do something, they will just open their laptop and start typing out inspirational searches without really putting their brain to work. So I think generative AI does sort of become addictive, and we're all in danger of diminishing our own creative, imaginative skills. And this has happened to Medium, which used to be a good platform for good articles. Last but not the least, while there are many examples that I could give you, one important thing is the environmental footprint of AI tools. Now, all AI tools, but generative AI in particular, has huge environmental impacts. Water is a great, important resource that is required for these components. So, producing the energy to run these machines as well as cool these machines, a lot of water is required. So, every time, like the article says, every time we type out a few queries on ChatGPT or any other generative AI tool, for instance, we waste so much of water, and water is already a precious resource. So one should really think of what we are doing to the environment. And of course, lot of companies, what they do is, I would call it an effect of digitization and high adoption of technology, is that we need so many devices to run these tools that we use. And these devices are designed by tech companies in such a way that we need to upgrade them every 2 or 3 years. What it does is it does produce a lot of electronic waste, and this electronic waste is then shipped out to developing countries in the world. Countries like Vietnam, India, South Africa, Bangladesh, etc., etc., many more. Now, the biggest problem with this is that there are lots of toxic substances in those components, which are really harmful for the health. And most of this electronic waste is dealt with by women and children um, in a few of these countries. And these toxic substances like mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, they cause severe, horrible, fatal illnesses and diseases. Uh, the unfortunate part about this is the people who are actually designing these components, these devices, these systems, and the short warranty of these systems are not the ones who are suffering from the ill effects of either these tools or these devices. So there are many more risks and ethical concerns with AI usage. We don't really have the time to go through everything, but you can always read up about this. So what does this mean? What this means is that AI systems tools are created by us humans, and most of the issues that we looked at are really not technology failures. They're not the problem only with technology, but they are human failures in a way. They are all a reflection of our values, our choices, and the decisions we made or the actions we took that have gone into creating these devices or these tools that are resulting in these outcomes and these outputs. So we know that technology moves really fast. I mean, if you look at the kind of things that have happened just in 2 years, it's very difficult for regulation to keep up, for laws to keep up. So understanding, not really relying on legal resources, but understanding how to create, deploy, and use AI tools in a responsible way to create content that does not harm anyone is an important aspect of this session. And this means that all stakeholders need to have the correct approach to AI adoption. So what are the different implications for the stakeholders, and who are the stakeholders? The primary stakeholders, of course, are the learners for whom a lot of these tools have been developed. There are the administrators who make decisions about what AI tools to actually implement in their organizations or their institutions. And there are the educators who are the faculty who are actually going to be incorporating these tools into their curriculum, into their teaching methodology. Then there is the tech company or the industry, the tech companies who are creating these tools and platforms, and the industry who are actually going to be using all these tools for generation of AI content. And then, of course, there are the regulators and the policy makers who regulate the use of this technology, either in different industries or in the education industry or even in the creative industry. So, what are the different implications for all these? First of all, blanket rules should be that AI should be used as a means, not an end. What that means is looking at AI tools to solve clear problems, not just as a shiny new toy that has to be adopted. I mean, AI is seen very often as a magic bullet that can solve any problems, but that is not the case. There has to be a clear use case and a clear problem solution. Digital and AI literacy are a must for everyone, regardless of who you are and what your role might be. And definitely, like I said, ethical considerations in the creation, in the usage, in the deployment of the tools and of the content that is created using these tools. Let's take a deep dive into implications for different stakeholders. The learners first. So AI tools should support and augment your creativity, not to be used as a crutch. The learning experience when you're a student is extremely important. Nothing can replace that. AI tools can give you information, but they cannot really give you that experience and the wisdom that comes along with experience. As a learner, as a student, authenticity, originality, academic integrity are extremely important. So is being transparent when you're using AI. And of course, technical skills are extremely important, but developing the ability to identify what you can trust, who you can trust, what tool has what impact, or understanding whose knowledge and expertise you can trust is also an important skill that you need to develop. Using appropriate tools can make everybody and anybody an expert, but we need to or students, learners need to develop that kind of understanding. For the tech companies and industry, I think it's important to understand what can empower and enhance the learning and teaching experience. The idea is not to replace it, but to actually empower teachers, educators. And definitely, tech companies as well as industry need to work together with educators to understand what problems can be solved with AI with very good feedback loops. Um, Tech companies have to ensure that there is equal access to resources. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a great digital divide. There are so many students, so many learners who do not have the same access either to devices or to the AI tools, and this is going to create a further divide going forward. Mentorships, internships, real world assignments, learning by doing are important factors to actually arrive at what students need to learn. Now this happens a lot in the creative industry where I'm from. Industry does work a lot with academia, works with many colleges, universities, learning institutions, and they actually use students as a resource for their projects, and it really works wonderfully well for the learners also. Where regulators and policymakers are concerned, I think it's understanding the best practices, creating guidelines and standards for appropriate use. I have not seen too much of this happening really, but I think it's a must. Um, I did some research before putting together this presentation, and one of the things that a lot of people said, whether it was educators, whether it was industry folk, is we do not have the support when we need it. So I think policymakers have to sort of provide documentation, have to provide different types of support when it is required for deploying or using these AI tools. And the important thing that I consider is an ecosystem of safety. Now, this is an example that I give at a lot of my sessions. If we actually draw an analogy with the automotive world, there are very clear. There's a whole ecosystem of safety in the automotive world. So everything has rules, whether it is the driver, whether it is the pedestrian, whether it is the manufacturer, the agency who's assigning licenses to drivers, whether it is road safety rules, whether it's traffic system. Why? Because this technology, the automotive technology, can cause physical harm to people. People can die, they can actually get injured. So we have recognized that physical safety is important, but what the world has not yet recognized and is slowly doing so is that a tool like AI can cause many other impacts, not just physical, but financial, social, reputational, mental, cognitive, emotional. And these are also very important impacts which need to be sort of accounted for. Last but not the least, administrators and educators for whom this session might be relevant, they have to establish clear policies about how the tools that they select and how they deploy and how they use. Definitely understanding current compliance requirements, that's important. Again, ensuring that all students and all types of students, all types of learners can access them, security of data, unbiased outputs. And there are lots of automated decision making tools which are used in across different industries. It's important that a human oversees these decisions. Again, evolving requirements and needs of learners depending on the kind of technologies and the kind of tools that are introduced in the market. I think there is a need to sort of relook at current curriculums and current delivery systems, as well as as we say, the KPIs and the metrics that we might use to gauge, and the assessment methods need to be changed to these different needs. Uh, when we talk of personalized AI tutors and more future sophisticated ways of teaching learners, there is also the fear that real human teachers might be old fashioned. They might no longer be relevant. In that case, I think they need to reevaluate and reimagine their own roles in this context, and they need to sort of, you know, get training and upskilling to keep up with technology developments and creation. And again, as educators, incorporating or cultivating a diverse set of skills among learners is extremely important. Technical, of course, I mean, everyone talks about technical skills, 21st century skills, but critical thinking, creative thinking, systems thinking, collaborating with other people, problem solving, knowing when to use a technology and when not to use a technology, those are important aspects. And of course, I feel in this race to adopt AI tools, we forget that there are important values. There are traditional values that might be non-negotiable, and one should not fear, upholding those values. So, if at all I have to leave you with some takeaways, they would be that AI is just a tool. It is a sophisticated tool, but it should be used at your discretion. Human skills and human values always will come before technology. Nothing can replace, no AI tool can replace what humans can do. And last but not the least, responsible and ethical usage at all times. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's working now? Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation, Supriya. It was really insightful and it gave me a really, really nice introduction for the topic that I'm going to present. So thank you for that. So yeah, my name is Trini Ballard. I'm from Chile, Latin America. And I'm currently a second year PhD student here at Texas A&M University in United States. researching all the intersection between AI and engineering education specifically, how it's impacting the way that we learn, the way that we teach, and how we can use AI and leverage AI to have a more meaningful learning and teaching experience, again, specifically in engineering. But now we have been starting to realize that a lot of like the policies that we have been designing and a lot of like the frameworks that we have been designing for this are actually applicable for a lot of different educational contexts. So this presentation is going to be specifically about this framework that we have been creating for integrating AI into engineering education. But again, one of the main insight that we have been receiving is that it can be actually leveraged to a lot of different educational contexts. So that is what we have been trying. That is what we have been developing, and I'm really excited to share that with you. I agree with a lot of the stuff that Supriya was like saying early. I think that AI is just a tool, a really sophisticated one, but that we could use it to leverage a lot of like the human capabilities and human skills that we already have, and then now we can like actually improve and leverage to hopefully reach deeper level of knowledge and intelligence as humans, and not as machine, obviously, as human in the interaction with the machines and using the machines in the right way. So yeah, I'm ready to start with the presentation. This should work. Is share now? Okay, perfect. Okay, so already I already introduced myself. I'm Trini Ballard, and this framework has been developed with my advisor, Dr. Christy Shyrock. So yeah, again, I'm a PhD student at Texas A&M in the multidisciplinary engineering department, focusing on engineering education and the impact of AI on education. And then Dr. Christy Shyrock is also a professor here at multidisciplinary engineering department. She's has a double affiliation between multidisciplinary and aerospace engineering, and her focus is also on engineering education. So first, I want to start with a brief introduction regarding with the difference of different levels of AI that in the technology aspect we are currently talking about. So in this image, we can see three different levels. The first one is the narrow AI, that this artificial intelligence is defined as the artificial intelligence that is really good for a really specific task. So I always give this same example of this AI that was able to win to the chess champion many years ago. This AI was like really good, and everyone started talking that was like really intelligent AI. But if to this program you ask literally any other question, like 2 plus 2, it wasn't able to answer because it was really good, but for a really specific task. So all the different AIs that we have right now, even ChatGPT that we are all amazed with all the amazing capabilities that has, is still on this first level of narrow AI. Some people are already saying that the last version of ChatGPT 4o, and like the Omni models, and like the last versions that are coming out in the last couple of weeks, maybe could be the first attempt of general AI. But we are still all the technology that we still have is in this first level of narrow AI. And I love this image because this was an AI generated image, obviously by ChatGPT. But it was like told me about like the different levels of AI in an educational context. So it's really funny for me that I feel that this is kind of similar to the educational system that we currently have. It's based on content, based on books. You have like the student really sit and will structure, and like they cannot explore much. They cannot like follow their interest much. So I feel that is kind of like similar to the AI, the artificial intelligence that we currently have, that is narrow, specific, and for one task. And then in the second level, we have general AI. That again, this is an artificial intelligence it doesn't exist yet. Like people have been talking about this for like at least 15 years, but we don't have like an actual technology that you will call general AI yet. But a lot of people like Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has been telling that maybe this could be an AI that could be released really soon, even in 2025. And then the main difference between general AI and narrow AI is that this AI could be able to start defining their own goals and tasks, and it could replicate some of the deeper human cognitive skills like creativity, emotional intelligence, analysis of context, and then like the possibilities that this bring to us, they are like unimaginable. Like that, there are so many things that this could like bring to us, and that this could mean to education and the way that educate people, and the way that educate like different professions. Even like the conception of profession is changing now. So and then like in the third level, we have the super intelligence, that this is something that we are not going to talk about because there are like a lot of like different theories regarding to that. But we are going to stick with this second level, general AI. And the reason why we are going to talk about this is because I want you to think in a world where we don't have the technical limitations that technology currently have, because like this is the way that we are going to be able to think on the future and to think what is coming, and to kind of like predict what is coming. I think it's going to be a really important exercise to us to be able to kind of like be more prepared for all the really really rapid change that are coming faster and faster. So with all that introduction, some of like the questions that I want you to start thinking are like, which areas of education do you think AGI will like influence the most? What do you think? How do you think this could like replace teacher? What do you think is the role that the teachers are going to have in the future with all these disruptions that are coming faster and faster? Obviously, aligned with all the presentation that we already hear. What do you think are the most important ethical considerations when we are like integrating this to education? And then what is the most exciting opportunity that you see? So I want to start making like all these questions, and we do a workshop with this, and like then we start to making like a word cloud with all this thing, and it's really cool. But like for now, I just want you to start like thinking on these questions, and then you're gonna rapidly realize that all these questions can be answered from like a lot of different like aspects and different approach, because it's a really complex conversation that combines and require a lot of different things that we need to take into consideration. So that is why we have been creating this framework. So it's the artificial general intelligence integration into engineering education, or as we call it, the AGI framework. And this framework is designed to kind of align and guide the conversations around the integration of AI in any educational context. Again, this was developed specifically for engineering, but like in the validation process of this framework, we have rapidly realized that is something that could be applicable to a lot of different educational contexts. And even we have been starting to try on K-12 and different, not just like higher educational contexts. So this framework proposed 5 core educational components interconnected, that for us are the most important things that we need to take into consideration when we are planning to integrate any kind of these AI disruptions into any kind of engineering educational environment. Sorry. So the first one is personalized educational trajectories. This talk a lot about this possibility that AI brings actually have a more personalized educational path for each of the students that is based on their own interests, that is based on their own like capacities and competencies. And I want to make a really important differentiation here between personalized and individualized, because this doesn't mean that each student is going to be by their self-learning. It just means that it's going to be aligned with their own personalized, unique learning path. But again, the collaboration between peers and the collaboration between students and professors are really, really important. And we need to keep that as important as it is, but in a more personalized way. Then we have dynamic interdisciplinary learning environments. This talks a lot about this possibility that AIs bring us to have like more different and interdisciplinary perspectives when we are like solving a complex problem. So the problems that we are solving in the real world are interdisciplinary in nature, and we need to start thinking in a way to create content and create methodologies that are more interdisciplinary, that kind of like bring all the disciplines together to actually be able to solve complex problems. So how we can apply knowledge into practical contents, how we can like foster innovative thinking, bringing all these like disciplinaries together. And this actually brings another more deeper conversation around how are the professions are going to look like in a few years. Like, are we going to be like these engineers, journalists, doctors, medical doctors? Like, maybe all the professions are going to look different in a few years. So like how we can like embrace that and bring that interdisciplinary into our all learning environments in a more dynamic way. And then this also aligned with the previous presentation that we see that we saw. The 21st century skills development are really important. We talk a lot about the 4 C's that are collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity, but we also include a stuff related with emotional intelligence, ethical judgment, how problem solving skills, like how we can like prepare our professionals to have like all the skills, the human centered skills that are going to be more important than ever, and that are going to be like that thing that is going to like actually differentiate us from the machines. Like how we can like leverage these skills and how we can like use AI to um, reach deeper level of these skills and like actually help us to fill some of the gaps that we are having as humans to actually teach these skills and like learn about these skills. Then ethical consideration, obviously we already have an amazing presentation about this, and I'm like totally agree with all the stuff that Supriya was like mentioning to us. The ethical considerations are a huge part. And then in this part, I most of the time divide this in like 3 different aspects. First, we have the ethical considerations regarding with the technology, that are all the things that again Supriya already mentioned, like data privacy, algorithm transparency, and among many others, bias, all that. But then we have also like the more kind of like philosophical ethical considerations regarding with ourselves as humans, regarding with how we perceive ourselves and our skills and our interaction with others now that we are entering into this like AI driven world. How this affects the way that we perceive ourselves. Is this like kind of like affecting our sense of meaning and our sense of purpose, like all that like philosophical question that we need to take into consideration, because we are like entering into something that we have never like dealt as humanity before. And then the third one was like all the ethical considerations that we need to teach our students and our professors to actually be able to be responsible in an AI driven world. So, like all the ethical judgment that we need to teach, how we can teach our students to be critical about the answers that we are receiving from this machine. And regarding all, again, the ethical considerations that Supriya already mentioned to us. And then the last one is continuous adaptation and lifelong learning. So how we can keep the curriculum relevant, adaptable with AI, how we can like bring industry perspective into our curriculums to be adapting all the time and be again relevant to the world. How we can have like more continuous professional developments for our students and for our professors, how we can cultivate a growth mindset and adaptability to be continuous adapting to this continuous changing world. So in this continuous adaptation, we have continuous adaptation of technology that is changing all the time really fast, continuous adaptation of our students and our professors, like how we can teach them to be adapting continuously. And the last one is continuous adaptation of this model. So one of the major critiques that we have making to educational frameworks and educational models is that they have not been able to actually adapt in a rapidly and proper manner. So how we can keep this framework and this educational model adapting all the time. So these are the 5 core educational components that I was mentioning to you. And then in the gray area that we have outside the model, we have a bidirectional relationship between the 5 core educational components influencing the things that are outside, but also the outside things are kind of like the border or like the umbrella that we need to have to be able to focus on this in these five core educational components. So here we have stuff like assessment and evaluation. We need to start like rethinking the way that we assess and then we evaluate learning. Like we cannot keep assessing in the way that we have been assessing learning all this time. Inclusivity and accessibility, all the stuff related with like bias and like how we can like address and improve and increase inclusivity and accessibility with AI, adapting to like different learning and disabilities, and like taking all that into consideration. Governance and infrastructure, like how we can have like a well-aligned governance between the country governance, the state governance, and then the institution governance, even up to like the class governance with the professor and their students. Like all that governance need to be aligned and the policies need to be aligned to have a successful implementation. And then that is like obviously aligned with all the infrastructure that we need to have this implementation. And then we have the future innovation. That was also something that Soraya was like mentioned early, like how we can have this collaboration between like industry and academia and the different stakeholders that are involved in this. How we can like bring all that together to develop something that actually meet all the requirements that we need. So what I'm meaning with this is that, for example, ChatGPT and a lot of like the different AI that we have been using lately, they have not been developed with an educational purpose. So for us as educators, if we want to kind of like take that AI that wasn't made with an educational purpose and kind of like put that into education, it's gonna be harder for us than if um, in the difference of like actually having an AI that is developed for educational purpose from the beginning. So how we can have that, bridge that gap and have that conversation between academia and industry to actually design the future innovations with educational purposes and having all the educational considerations in mind for head. And then curriculum development, that is something that obviously this all of us bring us here, like how we can like change the curriculum and how we can integrate AI to develop the curriculum in a more adaptable and faster way. And obviously, last but not least, super important, the instructor support that we need to bring to the instructor, like how we can support them to actually help them with this transition and help them with all this, again, disruption that is coming faster and faster. So this is the framework that was designed to kind of like, again, guide these conversations and kind of like group all the different things that we know that is a really complex things that covers a lot of different topics. So how we can like help you to have a more structured way of thinking on this, on different conversations related with this. So some of the challenges that we have seen is the Industry 5.0 misalignment. So how we can like bring industry to academia and kind of like be like prepare the professionals for the industry of the future if we don't even know how that industry of the future is going to look like. So how we can like prepare our professionals to be prepared for that. Obviously, the AI disruption is a huge challenge that we are dealing with. That is why we are all here. So how we can have a more human-centered skill development, how we can like promote more of that skills, and how we can like leverage that skills with AI. And then again, assessment and evaluation, we need to rethink the way that we assess and evaluate learning to be able to embrace all these disruptions and possibilities that AI is bringing us. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Can you hear me? So I put a lot of faith in learning by doing. Um, I think when learners are asked to create something using all sets of skills, the technical as well as their imagination, critical thinking, creative thinking, the lesson that they will learn will be will hold fast. And it's something that we do in the creative industry, which is design thinking, which is using a problem or approaching any kind of solution from a problem level. So, understanding why you're using this tool, what exactly do you intend to do with an AI tool? If you can sort of stay with the problem, understand what kind of tool and what kind of things will be necessary to solve that problem, I think students will be able to learn that lesson much better. So, one is, like you said, technical skills are, of course, important, and how they can be integrated by designing sessions which are about learning by doing. So, assign to them, do sessions with them about the theory part, but also make them practice by giving them problems that they find solutions to by using certain tools. And this is also something that I do when I do my workshops for AI literacy.
Yeah, so that's a really important question, and it's something that we all need to work together to kind of like develop that answer in together. But the first thing that I think is really important is something that Subraya also mentioned. That is this AI literacy for all. Like, we need to be able to provide to our students and also to our professors, because right now we are hoping for them to actually be able to teach this kind of like AI literacy to our students, even when they are not prepared to teach this, or even when they are not, they don't have like all this information either. So like how we can prepare in a fast way, um, training for them, workshop for them to be able to actually teach to our students. But yeah, AI literacy I think is important. It's something that it needs to be included in all the programs, in all of the different professions. This is something that is impacting to all of us in different ways, but we need to have a population that is ready to tackle these challenges, and for that they need to have information about this. We need to start like demystifying, like challenging some of like the myths and fake news that are around AI, and actually educate people about this. And I think that is like the most important thing. And with that, you start like kind of like working on top of it, and like researching more and understanding more, and the ethical considerations are gonna came with the actually understanding how it works.
Yeah. So, industry professionals understand the real skill sets that are needed in of course daily practice. What we learn in academia, what we learn as students, or even for educators, what they teach is is an ideal world scenario. But what happens in industry is very different. The kind of skill sets that you need are very different. So, both working together is an extremely important part of industry being able to inform educators and students about the real world requirements, and educators then being able to train their students according to what is required in industry. There are many collaborations like that in many parts of the world where academia works with industry to create systems of learning for their students. This happens, like I mentioned, in the creative industry, where students are actually roped into real world projects by industry, and that is how they get that real experience. And they often realize, educators also often realize, that they have been teaching very limited topics. What industry requires, the kind of skills that are required once students go out into the real world, are not what they have been teaching. So this collaboration really works amazingly well. It's something that I would recommend. Again, industry folk can do a lot of mentoring, giving back to their educational institutes, or taking up different kinds of students and mentoring them in the topic that they are comfortable with and experts at. That is also something that I do. I do a lot of mentorship, and I am connected with a lot of people who ask for these mentorship opportunities. Volunteering with educational institutes, going in as guest lecturers, creating sessions for students about what is happening in the real world. So I think these different kinds of initiatives from industry folk will really help students to understand what is required of them once they get out into the real world. And it would also get educators to understand how they need to sort of work on the syllabus, how they need to tweak their curriculum, what are the other skill sets that they need to develop among their students.
Yeah, so that is again like what we are like working for. And it's really interesting the thing that you mentioned about like being like in a developing country. As I already say, I'm from Chile, and I was like the previous month working in Chile, that is also a developing country. And I was really excited to see like this difference, because I have been like working over kind of like a year and a half here in the United States, that is, like leading all this AI thing. And I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna go back and see like what is like the difference. And actually think it's like kind of like a worldwide like problem right now. Like even here they are like coming up with like a lot of policies and coming up with a lot of things, but like they are not having like comprehensive like policies that actually like address like all these conversations that we are having, for example, right now here. Like all the insight that we have bring here in this like webinar, they have been like really insightful. But like I feel that like the policymakers people are not, I don't know if they're not like listening academia, or they're not like being able to like bring this insight to the conversations. But I feel that right now there are like a huge misconnection between the one that are like making the policies and the one that are actually like using AI for like educational purposes. But yeah, like one of like the one that I really like is the UNESCO one. That was is the one that I have been like reading a lot, and I have been like working a lot with like different of like the guidelines that they have been like doing. But again, like and even like my framework is still like super theoretical. So I feel that like people have not been able to embrace this in a rapid way to actually bring this to practical implementation and applications and see how this actually work. Because like everything that we have been saying now can sound like really cool, and like everything can be like really really well, but at the same time we don't have like long-term implications. We don't have a way to actually see what are like the actual impact that this is going to have in a few years in our professionals, or in a, like even in our like human skills. Like what is the actual impact that this is going to have in creativity, in critical thinking, in the way that we interact each other. So again, I feel that like the policies have not been able to actually embrace this rapid disruption that is coming faster and faster. And like there is a huge misconnection between academia and the one that are making the policies.
I think the first thing is to understand what best practices mean, because best practices would mean different things to different people. You mentioned developing countries. If I take the example of a tier two city in India and a college over there, their requirements are going to be very different from something that Trinidad mentioned, which is in the US, which is, or any other developing country for that matter. So this is going to be very specifically related to the different kinds of problems that an institution might be facing, or educators or students might be facing. So I would say that customization or one size fits all is not possible in these cases. One could always adapt or adopt what overarching things that are being done, let's say by countries or whatever. I know for a fact that Singapore leads in this area. They utilize AI a lot. They have very strong and innovative policies regarding AI, and also regarding AI's use in innovation, in research, in education. China has some very interesting policies. Of course, with China, it's difficult to know what they're doing. They focus a lot on national security, but they do have lots of things. South Korea, if I'm not mistaken, has. And Finland has something very interesting. I think Finland was among the first countries, if I'm not mistaken, which actually the government of Finland actually introduced an AI literacy toolkit for all their citizens. It's a free toolkit that is accessible for everyone. So I've really not seen that these kind of things happen at a governmental level. So yeah, there are lots of things happening in the world. What institutions need to do, what educators need to do, is to understand what is happening out there in the world, and among everything that is happening, what might best fit their requirements. Because it doesn't make sense to just copy something that somebody is doing when it doesn't work for you. So first, like I said, understanding your problem, understanding your requirements, and then working backwards to see what works best for you.
Yeah, again, I think this is like really related with the question that Supriya was like just like answering, and I totally agree with that. I feel that each of the different institution and each of the different contexts are like really different. The way that they can address this and the way that they can actually embrace this technology is gonna be really particular for their each unique context, and each their unique students and the unique needs, and like all the different things that make each educational context such unique. It's gonna actually like kind of like contribute to this tool, maybe if it's going to be an AI. But it's important that each of the institutions start having more and more of this conversation. And this align with your question. I think the international collaborations are really important too, because again, it's showing us these like different things that are being done in different ways. I think like initiatives like this webinar, for example, I think is really important for us to be able to see like how different places are tackling this and approaching this. And again, as Sabraya was saying, like how we can like take this and adapt it and like apply it to our specific context with again our specific uniques and our specific characteristics. um and I think also the role that governments are playing in this, I think ideally they should be the one leading this conversation. They should be the one actually creating these policies and creating these guidelines. I I don't know if they're doing it. I don't know if you have had a different experience in your country. But again, I understand that it's a really different and complicated things for again each of the contexts. So I'm not sure, to be honest, what is the role that government should play or this or the actual role that they are playing right now. But for me, it's more like the role that each as individual from an institution and from like our specific context is the role that we are playing and the role that we can play together more than the actual governments. Yeah, to keep in mind.
In fact, Amir, I would like to add to Trinidad's point, which is that relying on governments to do all this may not really work. But supra international organizations like UNESCO is doing something in this area. So, getting countries together, getting different organizations together to learn from each other. I think organizations like that are in a better place because they already have those systems of collaboration in place, and they can use those systems. They can use those relationships between different countries to actually do much more in this space. So I honestly don't have an answer to that. I've realized that it's very difficult to predict. I mean, 2 years back, 3 years back, we couldn't have predicted ChatGPT and the wonders that it could do. What I do think might happen is, and I hope that will happen, is people will start looking at different ways of consuming this AI created content. Right now, we are looking at static screens, and we're looking at these kind of devices that we've seen. But probably there might be more advances in that. And I'm hoping that it would actually be some kind of deviceless interaction or deviceless consumption of AI technologies that will provide great access to people right now who do not have access to this technology. One is that, and I think as people sort of get used to using AI tools, there might be a surfacing importance of what it means to be human. Human skills will start playing a more important role because we are already looking at a saturation of AI content. I mean, you read anything on the internet and everything sounds the same. So anything that is unique and that comes from humans might again start becoming important. I think those might be interesting trends.
Yeah, so talking about like general AI has been like really interesting to actually start researching that they are already like showing up some of like the skills that they want to teach to this machine to be able to reach this general AI. So like I don't have like an specific list because there is now like an specific list already, like but like you can find some of them. They mention stuff like creativity, emotional intelligence, collaboration between the machines, so how we can promote the collaboration between them, among many, many others. But for me, it's really interesting that a lot of the skills that they are like already trying to teach to the machines, that they have already defined as the skills necessary to reach deeper level of intelligence, are human skills, again, like creativity, emotional intelligence. So if we already know that these are the skills that we want to teach to the machine for the machine to become more intelligent, why we are not like coming up with more tools to actually promote these skills in the humans? And I know that there are like a lot of things to promote creativity and a lot of stuff already out there, but like if we already know that these are the important skills that we want to teach to the machine, that we don't even know fully know how to teach and measure this in humans, and we already like trying to teach this in the machines, I think there is like a huge gap that actually I can like help us to fill on like how we can like actually teach and leverage this and measure this on humans. And and I feel that these are like the trends that are gonna like coming up, like AI for creativity and AI for foster creativity and AI for foster like personalization, but again not in an individualized way, in a more unique for each of the person way. So I have a more like positive view of AI in general, but I'm super aware of like all the ethical consideration that we have been talking, and I'm super aware of like the power of this tool. And in the same way that I feel that has like all these possibilities, I think it's the same way of like challenges that has, and it depends on how us as human use this tool and decide to use it in a proper and positive way. So I think that is gonna be like the main answer for like how the trends are coming and the different things are coming. It's gonna depend on how we decide to use it. So yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.